Okay, question 3 has 2 parts. The first one asks what length of fencing is needed to surround this yard. So that means we're looking for the perimeter of the yard. So if this is the yard, we know all the sides except this one. So in order to figure out what the length of that side is, we have to do some analysis and some questioning. So, okay, my suggestion is if I wanted to figure out what this was, I could split it up just like we have in other problems. So what I could really do is focus on the fact that we technically have a combination of 2 shapes here. Now, while this is itself a trapezoid, I have 2 sides that are parallel, and I know this because they're both perpendicular to the same segment. I know it's a trapezoid, but I can't find a side of the trapezoid like that. So if I do split it into a rectangle and a triangle, I can. Because if this is a right triangle, if this side is 16 and this side is 16, if this is 11 and this whole thing is 18, that means this portion up here is 7. Then that tells me I can use the Pythagorean theorem, like in a previous problem, to find that hypotenuse. So 16 squared plus 7 squared equals my hypotenuse squared. 16 squared is 256. 7 squared is 49. 256 plus 49 gives me 305. When I take the square root of that, I get that it is approximately 17.4642. Again, try and maintain worth in the middle of your calculations. Save the rounding to the nearest tenth or nearest so-and-so for the very end. Now that I know all 4 sides, right, this is my hypotenuse up there, the one missing side, I add everything up. So my perimeter is 11 plus 16 plus 18 plus 17.4642. When I combine all of that, I get a perimeter of approximately 62.5 meters, just meters. Okay, so while that gives me the measurement all the way around, I'm going to erase things on the diagram. We're now being asked for the area of the yard. Okay, so when it comes to area, I could again realize that I'm actually working with a trapezoid here. The entire thing is a shape that we know. We have one base that's worth 11, one base that's worth 18, and then the height, the measure between the bases is 16. I actually have everything that I need to use that area for trapezoid formula. 1/2 times the sum of the bases times the height. So I'm going to actually do this 2 different ways. I'm going to do it as a trapezoid because I realize it's a trapezoid. I'm also going to do it splitting the pieces up so that you can see it that way as well. In the end, we should get the same result, right? So if I go and plug in what I know my 2 bases, we just said, are 11 and 18. My height is 16. And now we solve. We have 1/2 times 29 times 16. When I calculate that all together, I get an area of approximately, not approximately, but actually 232. So it's 232 meters squared. We're back to a squared unit of measure because we're dealing with area. Okay, so again, let's say we didn't realize that that was a trapezoid and we chose to split this up instead. If I split this back into the rectangle with the separate right triangle like we saw before, we already said this measure here was 16 meters. We already know that from here to here is 7 meters, right? Because if the whole thing is 18 and this portion of it is already 11, that makes this little piece 7. So if I split it up, I have the area of the rectangle plus the area of the triangle. The area of the rectangle is base times height. Area of the triangle is base times height divided by 2. Okay, the dimensions of my rectangle are 11 and 16. 11 and 16. The dimensions for my triangle are 7 and 16, right? Those are my perpendicular base and height. Don't forget that's divided by 2 in the end. And then again, once we get those two areas, we add them together. So my 11 times 16 is going to give me 176 plus my area for the triangle, which is going to be 16 times 7 gives me 112, and then 112 divided by 2 gives me 56. So 56 plus 176 gives me the same area of 232 meters squared. So again, I could either realize that that was a trapezoid immediately, or I could split it up and solve that way. You can move on to the next video for question 4.